So I'm doing my podcast from my backyard today because my daughter was in one room, my other daughter was in the other room, and I had no room. So I just decided we'd come outside today. So the light's going to be inconsistent. The sound may be inconsistent. There's definitely a plane flying overhead. What can I say? I don't have my own studio yet. So until then, I just got to do what I got to do. So I'm in the backyard. And I'm waiting for the dog to wake up so I can make sure he goes potty, and he's just sleeping through the whole thing. So that's a bonus.
Yeah, how's the new puppy doing?
He's great. He's a really great temperament dog. He sleeps a lot. He pees while walking sometimes, which makes me think that's some developmental issue. But other than that, he's pretty close to potty trained, maybe 90%. He tends to have one accident a day, and it's at different times of the day for different reasons. So I don't know. Maybe it's just his age. He's only 4 months. It's almost 5 months.
Easier than Izzy?
Yes. Tremendously easier than Izzy. Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, you were going through hell with Izzy.
She was terrible. She's stubborn. He's not stubborn. He's kind of dumb. Not dumb, but he's kind of goofy.
We say that about Izzy, too.
Izzy's not goofy. Not like this dog. No. This dog is a real goof. But he's really sweet, and he did what I needed. He plays with Izzy all day long. They play. If they're awake, they're playing. And that's what I needed to have happen. So he'll eventually be potty trained. It'll be, he'll be potty trained. He'll get there. They always do. But before we talk about this episode, I say this in the end of this episode, but I signed up for Kristen and Jocelyn's parenting series at mcdermottmethod.com/WOTP. I freaking love it. I get one email a week that has a 10-minute audio file of a parenting lesson. And I have applied it to my business. I've applied it to how I treat myself. And I've applied it to my marriage. I've done 3 weeks. And the stuff that comes in this audio file is so helpful. It's really, really awesome. Like the first week was about leveling with your kids. If you level with your kids and you're always honest with them, then they trust you. No matter what you're saying, they believe you. But if you're like not honest with them, then they don't know what to believe or when to believe. And I thought, that's so simple. Such a simple kind of theory to keep in your mind when you're parenting. Don't bullshit your kid, because then they won't trust you when they're younger, especially. I bullshit my kids all the time now, but I feel like I have a base of honesty. But something did happen, and I was trying to figure out how to kind of sweep it under the rug. And I realized I wasn't leveling with Georgia, which is who it's happened with. And I called her outside and I said these words: I'm going to level with you. This is what's really going on. And she, I think, even though it was hard, appreciated it. So I just can't say enough about this parenting series. It's a 52-week series. So the price tag may seem high, but really it's $6 a week because it's for 52 weeks. So I think it's amazing. And Wife of the Party is sponsoring 2 scholarships per quarter. 1 scholarship has been given away this quarter. I don't think the second one has yet. So you could definitely go check it out. And I'm sure there's a box where you can say, hey, this is why I need a scholarship. I am out of who gets the scholarship. I have no control over that. But I did pay for 2 people to take this series. And I'll do that again next quarter to make sure at least 2 people get some much needed parenting advice. So anyway, check it out. So this week, Halston and I talk about books that have stuck with me, and one book that stuck with him for my whole life. They're all fiction. They're all over the place. There's like teenage novel to classic novels to modern novels to essays. They're just all over the place. So there's a link to all the books at wifeotp.com under the links to great things page. If you'd like to just make it easy on yourself, click the link. It'll take you straight to Amazon. And I make like a quarter off your click, which if 4 people click, it's $1. And then if 8 people click, it's $2. So it's not much money, but if you go through my link and buy, then I get a little bit of something, which is great. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this podcast is my last of the 3 book series of This Is What I Read that stuck with me. So I guess this is our book club for the September. I've been so bad with our book club with Kathy and Kirsten. So this is my 3rd in this series of This Is What I Read. So I hope you enjoy it. It was always a good conversation with Austen. So
love talking with you.
I know. It's always good, Austen. It's like my little brother.
Yeah.
So cute. Although he could be my son. But we won't think about that. We won't think about that. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy this episode. And hope everybody's well. And check out McDermott Method. My skin looks amazing because I'm using Christina Rumley's Provide. So there's still a link to Provide on my website. So check out all my friends' stuff on my website. It's all there.
It's on the description below as well. The links and a small description of what they are. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming back every week. I hope everybody's well. And enjoy this round 3 of the books that stuck with me.
It sounds good.
Thank you for your hair's long.
Oh my gosh. I know. I just worked out. I probably should do something.
You just worked out?
Yeah.
What do you do to work out?
Well, right now I'm doing a 30-day ab challenge with my buddy.
Oh, 30-day ab challenge.
It's brutal.
Yeah?
It is brutal. It's day 8 now, and I've been sore every day this month.
What are you doing in this ab challenge?
It's this one fitness lady from YouTube, and I just found the first 30-day ab challenge that I could. So she goes down this list, and it's 100 reps, and every day it's a different ab workout of 100 reps. And so it's ridiculous. Today we laid on our back with our hands above our head and our legs stretched out, and then just sat up in this chair sitting position. And I'm dying, but I'm starting to see results a little bit.
Are you getting a 6-pack? Are you?
I'm getting a half a pack, a half of a one. Yeah.
Oh, a 1-pack?
A half of one. Yeah. So far.
The trainer was telling us, Drop Squad, yesterday that men don't work out their legs because women aren't interested in men's legs. Men work up their biceps and their abs because that's what women want.
That's
and
right.
I was like, I am not interested in Bert's legs. I don't really care about his legs.
Bert has good legs, though.
Well, if you ask him, he has the most beautiful legs on the planet. He believes himself to have very beautiful legs.
They're bad.
Kind of girly, but I mean, if you took the hair off, they're kind of girly. He had tiny little calves. He's got these little bitty calves.
They're not as small as mine. I'm very tall and skinny.
Yeah, but you're a string bean. He's not a string bean.
Yeah.
He's like this.
Yeah, I'm string beany, but I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be a ripped string bean.
Hey, ripped string bean's awesome. You got to work on your biceps. Girls like biceps.
I've been doing that nonstop in quarantine. Push-ups and sit-ups and buys and tries and trying to get shoulders right and flexibility. And I don't work out my legs at all because I have a bad knee, but I do go on walks. Oh, that's it. I might need surgery on my knee.
Really? What's wrong with your knee?
I don't know yet, but it's going to be something that needs to be MRI'd instead of just X-rayed. I got an X-ray and everything's fine. So it's a problem that needs to be fixed using an MRI to diagnose. And it's been bad it's been bad for a while. I don't know if the cartilage is worn down or what.
Oof. Yuck.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is knee surgery nowadays is pretty simple and okay.
Yeah. My friend recovered from knee surgery, less than a week. He was walking totally normally when he was limping before.
Right. It's definitely worth it. Do you have insurance?
Yeah, it's horrible though. $900 for an MRI. That's why I've been putting it off.
That's what you'd have to pay?
Yeah.
Wow.
Out of pocket. So I'm I'm gonna have to budget for that one. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. That stinks.
Just being cheap. I should have done it a long time ago.
Well, it's hard because then if you know the answer to the question, then you have to deal with the answer to the question, right? If you don't ever know the answer, you don't have to deal with it. And I mean, we both know that's not the best route, but I don't think it's abnormal. I think most people don't want to know the answer to the question. They assume it's going to be some horrific surgery or cancer or something bad, and you have to deal with that. And that nobody wants to deal with that. But it is better to just deal with it and get it over with. You know, especially with something like your knee. If your problem is your meniscus, you could be shredding it and making it worse and possibly irreparable. So if you know, sometimes it's better to go and see, and then you can say, well, this is something I can live with until I can save the money, or this is something I really need to handle so I don't have further damage. That's the problem, is you don't ever know if you're causing yourself further damage, right?
Yeah, I think I injured it 4 years ago. So
how'd you injure it?
Delivering pizzas.
Oh, did you like slide into home plate with the pizza?
No, I was running because I'm an awesome worker and I hustle. And I was running back to the car after a delivery and I stepped in a giant pothole that I just did not see. And I thought I broke my ankle. That's how bad it is. I'm used to basketball injuries. And I was like, I definitely broke my ankle. It swelled up immediately, turned purple. And I could barely drive back because I had to put pressure on that.
Your right leg.
It's my right one. And the swelling went down after I elevated it, and it wasn't broken or sprained, but my knee has not been the same since.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, here's another thing to think about. Elective surgeries, like the one you're talking about, have dropped drastically during COVID. So you may be able to get a deal. A knee on sale. You may be able to get a deal.
Discount knee.
Because you discount knee, yeah, because I was at my cardiologist this past week having a follow-up visit for my fall, and he was saying his business has just, that no one's having any kind of elective surgery. It's all emergency or nothing, because people don't want to go and deal with the hospital. When really my experience of the hospital when I fell, there was no COVID in sight. Like everything COVID was in a completely different part of the hospital. They did not go to the ER. They went to their own entrance to the ER. It was completely separated. I don't know how it could have been safer. I really don't. So I don't know. Just think about it. Now may be the time. Knee on sale.
Yeah, I got to wait till my girlfriend is back so she can take care of me if I need to. I miss her. She's been gone for so long.
I'm sure. She has been gone a long time.
Pretty much almost all of quarantine. And
that's a long time.
A bummer. Yeah. It's a real bummer.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm staying busy and I'm just getting myself right and trying
What do you mean getting yourself right?
Just maintaining a level of mental health and physical health and just keeping myself at a certain percentage. I don't want to dip below like 70% feeling good. You know what I mean? If I dip below that, then it's just a depression, and I don't want to be there. So
right.
If I just feel myself feeling funky, I got to work out. Or I have to drink something like this cold pressed juice with kale and spinach and apple, cucumber, celery, lemon, ginger.
Sugar.
Some good food sugar.
Yeah. Apple has a lot of sugar. But it's good sugar. Sugar's good for you. That sugar's good for you.
12 grams. Oh, no.
Sugar.
Oh, sugar. Bum, 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 bum.
All right. So this is my third and final book series of the books that I've read that stuck with me.
Oh, yeah. Which ones are today?
Which ones are today? They're fiction that stuck with me. Fiction and somewhat nonfiction. The first one being, of course, Life of the Party.
Hey.
Shameless plug. But I only plug it because I'm really proud of it, because Bert wrote it, but really, I kind of edited it. He's, he uses a lot of that's. He uses a lot of that's in a sentence. That guy that went to that thing that had that guy's thing that had 4 things of that stuff. And I'd be like, oh my God. One that per sentence. And then figure out what the other that's mean and put a real word in there. Like he wrote every word, but I did that. Not to use that again, but that is what I did. I would go and read it and go, I don't understand this part. So you need to reread it and see if you understand it, because I wasn't there. So I don't know what you're talking about. But to be honest with you, it's a really fun read. It's a really fast read. It's, I don't know. I've read it a couple times, even since it was published, and I read it very quickly. I like books that I can get through really quickly. And I laughed out loud a few times. So I'm really proud of this book for Kreischer's Life of the Party. And yeah, that's got to be my first one.
Awesome. Yeah, he says the audiobook is fun to read too.
Yes, he's dyslexic. So him reading his own book was a joke. Like, he can hardly get through it. I watched him record it and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be entertainment in and of itself. Just you're reading it. So yes, the audiobook as well is a good pick there. But this next book, I guess a lot of these are from pretty recently. Oh no, that one's not. Okay. Bert gave me this book because he thought I would appreciate this person's sense of humor. And I was reading this book in the airport in Tampa, laughing so hard that tears were running down my face, laughing at this book. It is such a good book. And a lot of people may have read it, but it's Naked by David Sedaris. Have you read this book?
Never even heard of it.
Okay. So each chapter in the book is a story from his life. It's kind of a memoir, I guess, but not really. It's not marketed as a memoir. So, but my God, David Sedaris, if anybody doesn't know who he is really a humorist. He writes kind of essays about his life, and each chapter is kind of an essay about something that happened in his life. And I think the second story in the book, he has OCD, and his OCD manifested itself in licking light switches. So in like second grade, he'd just get up in the middle of class and lick the light switch.
Oh my God.
And I think he had a speech impediment, and he lived in South Carolina, and he was gay. And he was in a big family. Amy Sedaris is his sister, and she is a well-known comedic actress. And the way he tells a story just kills me. He has this one story about one summer he got really into detective TV shows, like hardcore. And you notice how all these detectives had black hair. So he wanted to have black hair too. So he stole his dad's shoe polish and put it in his hair. And then he got in trouble for something and hid in his parents' closet. And he ended up running the shoe polish down the whole length of the closet and getting it all over their clothes. And it's just the funniest story after story. I just remember the one that made me cry was the shoe polish in the hair in Tampa Airport.
Oh my God.
I've read this book probably 3 times. And if I ever am looking for a book that just makes me laugh, this is the book. Naked by David Sedaris.
Oh my God. Just ruined their clothes. And I'm sure they didn't have much money for replacements.
It was like running down his face. And his mother was like a chain smoker and just real kind of like sharp-tongued Southern woman. And it's just a great, great book. Now I think I've read all of his other books. And I've liked them, but this book, for whatever reason, just killed me. It was so good.
When I was a kid, I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I saw my dad's razor and shaving cream. And I grabbed the razor, and I just started going like this on my forehead, going to shave my forehead. And I obviously cut my forehead open pretty badly, and just blood is pouring down my head. So I walk down the stairs and my mom's in the living room and blood is pouring from my head and she starts freaking out.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's how I relate to that story. But
well,
I haven't thought about that in a while. Gosh.
There you go. Kind of like shoe polish all over your hair.
I caught myself on fire one time too.
What?
When I was a kid. Yeah.
How did you catch yourself on fire?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I was sitting on the toilet and I had my pants at my ankles and I was 8 years old and we had a lighter in the bathroom to light candles. And I grabbed a piece of toilet paper, about 7 squares, and I held it up and I lit the bottom on fire and the fire went up to my hand, obviously. So I dropped the toilet paper and it landed on my pants that were at my ankles.
Oh my God.
And my mom had a sixth sense, apparently, because she burst into the door and ripped my pants off and just beat them on the bathroom floor. She said that she heard God say, "Go check on Austen." And I was on fire in the bathroom.
My God. And your mom saw your wiener schnitzel. But you were.
Oh, yeah, probably. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, my God.
That's the least of your worries when you're on fire.
I guess so. That's crazy. That's crazy. I've never caught myself on fire, but I did light a whole pack of Black Cat firecrackers and just watched the fuse. And then they exploded in my hand, which was really stupid. I was only about 5, though.
Oh, my gosh. Well, when I was in high school, me and my friends used to love to play with fire. And this might not be the time because the United States seems to be on fire on the West Coast.
Right.
But we had a gas can that we were playing with and lighting little small fires in his backyard on the cement. And the gas can caught on fire. And I decided to just stay there and try to blow it out with my breath. And it worked. I blew it out.
Wow, you are lucky that thing didn't explode.
I am so lucky, but I didn't want his house to just get destroyed because we were like right next to his house. That thing would have burst and exploded.
Yeah.
And like everything would have, I mean, the neighborhood could have gone down. And so I just kind of panicked and took a big deep breath.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Blew it out.
The hose, like the nozzle was like on fire. So it's like
scary.
Really, really crazy. So
moral of this story is you should stay away from fire.
Yeah, I don't mess with fire anymore.
You should stay away.
I had enough of that. It was fun while it lasted, but it's too dangerous.
Too dangerous. Oh my God, so scary. I don't think I've ever had any close calls with fire. Isla shaved her face once. We were at Bert's sister's house, and Isla was missing and quiet. She was probably about 4, maybe 3 or 4. And she had shaved here and here. And she had cut herself. She had cuts all over like a beard and a mustache. So we had Band-Aids on her like this for like a week.
How come she knew how to like where to shave, but I did my forehead?
You might not be bright at that age. You may not have been very bright.
I don't think so. I do not think so.
I needed a little help. Okay, next book is another book that I read, and I was so sad when it was over. This is a book about a family, a Jewish family, and I think the dad dies. I don't remember now, but I just remember this book was so great. And they all sit Shiva together.
What is that?
It's This Is Where I Leave You is the name of the book. This Is Where I Leave You. And sitting Shiva is a Jewish tradition where you stay in the house for like, I don't know how long it is. I apologize to anyone who's Jewish. 6 days or 7 days. The whole family stays in the house and accepts visitors to pay their respects. It's kind of like a wake, but it lasts for 6 or 7 days.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. I remember this, yes.
So all these family members come together that haven't been together in a long time, and drama ensues and affairs happen and secrets come out. And it's so well written. It's just so good. It was one of those books I think I read from the time I picked up until I put it down. And I was so upset when it was over. Now they made a movie from this book, and the movie was okay. but the book was just, as usual, so much better than the movie. So this is where I leave you. I haven't read anything else from this author. His name is Jonathan Tropper, but I know he has a couple other books as well. But God, that book, I was like, boy, if that doesn't happen in every family in some capacity, I don't know what. It's really fun. It had some surprises, some twists and turns that you didn't expect, which was really cool.
Awesome.
All right. Next one.
It all takes place during Shiva?
I think so, yeah. I think there's some memories, remembering stuff from childhood and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it all takes place while they're sitting Shiva.
Oh, cool.
It was really cool. It was cool. It's cool, too, to read something fiction that's, kind of out of the box a little bit.
Yeah. So you like dysfunctional families?
I do like dysfunctional families. I relate to that big time. This may be a short podcast. I'm burning through these books. So the next one, I think everybody on the planet read, but I had to bring it up. It's Memoirs of a Geisha. This book was so incredible. It transformed me to a different place. And this fictional novel about this woman who is a geisha just had so many messages, about strength and power and empowerment and about being trapped and having no choices and about power structures. And it was beautifully written. I read it effortlessly. And it just was one of those books that I go, God, that's a great book. Years later, I think back to, God, that was just a great book. So almost everybody who was on the planet and of the right age for that book has probably already read it. But for the 20-somethings who probably haven't read Memoirs of a Geisha, it's a great read. It's really good. It really is one of those books that takes you somewhere else, where you're really not here anymore. You're there with her. It's really great.
I felt that way with 1984.
Oh, yeah?
George Orwell book.
Oh, yeah. I know the book.
We studied that book relentlessly in high school, and I loved it.
You did?
He tied it in with Wall-E, which was really interesting. We watched Wall-E. And it's in the same vein and big brothery mixed with just complacency by the people. And then in Wall-E, they get really fat and they don't move. And they have these floating carts that drive you around and you're big and fat. And I remember we also watched the movie 1984 and I just loved it. I couldn't put it down. I was in high school too. It's kind of probably a confusing book for someone who's young, but he explained it so well that I remember just loving it.
You had a good teacher.
I did. I had an amazing teacher. He was an amazing theater coach and English teacher, and he taught a class called Film as Literature. Ooh. And I took that class like several times, and he showed us how to break down movies and what hidden messages in movies mean.
Ooh, how interesting.
It ties in together. Yeah, so 1984 was one of the movies. The Matrix was another movie.
Oh, great movie, that one.
I'm blanking. Lenny, who kills the Wabbit.
Oh, Of Mice and Men.
Of Mice and Men, yeah. That was another one. Just big, heavy movies that have a lot of unspoken messages. That's the shit I love. That's
cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What a great class. Talk about keeping your student body engaged.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean,
someone who's passionate and knows what they're talking about makes such an incredible teacher, especially for something that's hard to understand, that maybe, like you're saying, that 1984 may be a little above the head of a kid that age. But if you have a good teacher, they can bring it to your level and let you and help you understand it.
Yes.
And Shakespeare, I didn't have a good Shakespeare teacher in high school, but my freshman English teacher, we did a small minute on Shakespeare, and it clicked. I went, okay, now I understand how to read his writing. I don't know what he did or what he said, but I actually showed the girls the film Much Ado About Nothing this week, which is obviously Shakespeare, but it's Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson. And those two people like eat Shakespeare for lunch. They're just so good at acting in that forum that my kids could understand what was going on. But if you don't have a good actor, you don't know what's going on in the story. You have to really understand how to present the language so that it's understood.
I was in a Shakespeare play, and I can't even tell you what it was even about.
It's because it's very simple. The themes are the same in almost every play. It's either a comedy or a tragedy. There's a fool. There's, let me dress up as you and do this deed. And then mistaken identity. It's in almost every single Shakespearean play. So once you understand kind of the formula that he stuck to most of the time, it makes the play easier to understand. But yeah, I find someone who's really passionate about what they're teaching or expressing makes it easier for other people to understand. That's really cool. You had a teacher like that.
I had two amazing teachers. They were husband and wife, actually.
No way.
It was them too. Yeah. Crom and Fawcett. They changed my life for the better. I mean, they gave me direction. They gave me structure. They gave me a safe space to get my emotions out, and all things that I had no idea that I needed until I grew up and kind of looked back, and you go, wow, you don't really have those in the real world. And at that time in my life, it was really, really important. And I mean, I owe a lot to them. I mean,
so great.
Yeah, they did a lot for me and with me. And I think I turned out good partially because of them.
Oh, that's great. So yeah. Shout out. Crom and Foster, is that what you said?
Crom and Fawcett.
Crom and Fawcett.
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, next book. Okay, I used to run a book club a long time ago, way before I had kids, way before I knew Bert. And in my book club, I don't remember how many women we had in the book club, but every month, one person hosted and chose the book. Non-negotiable. That person chose the book, and that's the book the group read, like it or not. And this person, Jordan Catapano, chose this book, and I was like, for real. I do not want to read this book. It is, again, a book that has never left me. And I thought, I'm not reading a book about this. It's called Touching the Void. And it is a book about rock climbing, like mountain climbing, like serious, like Mount Everest rock climbing. Two guys go up together, and one guy has an accident, and what happens after that? You have to read the book. It was, again, a book I could not put down. It took me a little bit of time to get into it because I didn't know the terminology of rock climbing, like what the equipment was, and they kind of explain it to you so you can follow along. At the very beginning, I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know what this means. I don't know what that means, but got it. And then once it started moving, oh my God. I think this was also made into a feature film, but I could not put this book down. And it was just so much about the human spirit, the will to live and survive, what you can go through to live is powerful in this book. This guy, I mean, there's no way this should have had a happy ending. There's just no way. Should not have had a happy ending. And it does. And it was just a great journey. I again, couldn't put the book down and did not want to read it. I was like, seriously, Jordan, I don't want to read a book about mountain climbing. I don't know anything about mountain climbing. It was great. I wish I had the time to have that same book club again, because it was great to be forced to read something, because inevitably I always ended up loving what I read. Oh, that reminds me, there's one book that's not on here. It's the book Seabiscuit. That was another book club. Alyssa Gillen chose Seabiscuit for our book club read of the month. And I was like, I don't know nothing about horse racing. I don't care about a horse. I don't care about horse racing. One of the most inspirational stories I've ever read is the story of Seabiscuit. And Laura Hildebrand, I think is the author's name, writes so beautifully. She also wrote Unbroken, the story about the Olympic runner that was in World War II, which I thought was great also. But Seabiscuit just kicked my butt. It was so great because there was a lot of history. There's 3 very defined men in the journey of Seabiscuit, who was one of the most amazing athletes, not to mention racehorse, but athlete in general of all time. He was not a thoroughbred racehorse. I think he was like a quarter horse or something. He was not supposed to be a racehorse. He went through injury after injury after injury, and his trainer was old school, grumpy, crotchety guy who just knew how to take care of horses. And the jockey was down on his luck, alcoholic, not supposed to be successful guy. And this owner who just loved him. And the guy would have won the Triple Crown. The horse, it was an incredible story. And they made a movie about it. And the movie kind of was paled in comparison. I watched the movie and I was like, first of all, Tobey Maguire is too tall to be a jockey. Yeah. You've lost me there. And his jockey was a redhead. You've lost me there. I don't want to watch the movie. I got so attached to the characters in the book because they were just so well defined. And the factual life of Seabiscuit is so inspiring. And he inspired our whole nation to persevere and to fight and to do your best work. Oh, here comes Georgia. Georgia was working out in the man cave. That's why I didn't get to podcast in the man cave. How's it work out? You feel better? You look better. Teenagers.
Oh.
Anyway, Seabiscuit, so great. I've read Seabiscuit 3 times.
Really? Is it a true story?
It's a true story. It's a true story about a racehorse that should never have been a racehorse, a jockey who should never have won, a trainer who did not fit the mold, this like odd skeleton crew that I cried over and over again in that book.
Wow.
It just was like, I'd be like, oh, come on, Seabiscuit, come on, Seabiscuit. And then Seabiscuit would win and I'd cry. We'd go on to the next day. It was just amazing, amazing. And the way she wrote it, I felt like I was in that time period watching this unfold. And it was, I don't even remember the time period. I think it was during World War II. It was a long time ago. So that's a great book, Seabiscuit. Again, from a book club. All right, I only have 2 more books. Only 2 more.
What are your books? I'm trying to look up when Seabiscuit was.
I was waiting for you to look up Seabiscuit.
Well, I have to prove I'm not a robot, so that's good.
Oh, for the information, you have to prove you're not a robot? Can you say LeeAnn says he's not a robot?
Yeah, 1940.
Yeah, so World War II. Yeah, it's an incredible book. Okay. I did not read classics in high school. I read Ivanhoe. That's the only classic novel that I read. I read Ivanhoe, and I choose it because I heard that Robin Hood was in it. Robin Hood was in it for 1 minute, and I have no memory of what Ivanhoe was about. But I didn't read any Jane Austen. I didn't read any Bronte. I didn't read any Wuthering Heights. No, A Tale of Two Cities. That just wasn't required reading in my high school. Or if it was, I didn't do it. I missed it somehow. So when I was probably 28, I decided I should read some classics because I feel really stupid. I feel like I don't know any classics. Like I read Catcher in the Rye, Great Gatsby. I read those books, but nothing kind of other than that basic Lord of the Flies.
Giver.
No, The Giver wasn't published when I was in high school, dude. No, I'm too old for that. But I have read The Giver since with my middle schooler.
I just feel like it's an old book because there's an old man on the cover. So I'm like,
So are you calling me old?
no, I just assumed it was written a long time ago for some reason. I didn't read it, but
So you're again calling me old because it was written after I was in high school.
no, I'm just saying I assumed it was written a long time ago by
Now
that
it is
Moses
a
guy.
classic. Like me, I am a classic. Thanks a lot, Alton. No, I did not read The Giver. But
Oh, 1993. Wow, yeah.
see, I graduated high school in 88. That person was probably still in high school also.
I was too.
And you were too. So
Shaving my forehead.
So anyway, I decided I would start reading classics. So I read, Wuthering Heights, and I read, The Scarlet Letter, and then I read this book, Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, Pride and Prejudice.
And I read Sense and Sensibility, and then I read Northanger Abbey, and then I read Emma, and then I read everything Jane Austen ever wrote. And I'm sorry, I don't think it's a girl-only book, but my God, Jane Austen is a treasure. She just writes like nobody else. And I mean, the first time I read her, I was surprised. Things came up that I didn't expect. She has so much wit and freedom, even in this system that she lived in where everything was so controlled. I was so impressed that she wrote this as a man. She couldn't publish the books as a woman. And it was later found out in her lifetime that she was this writer, which I was happy to know about. But I find all her characters interesting and engaging. And I don't know how many times I've read Pride and Prejudice, probably 5. I know I've read Sense and Sensibility at least twice. It's one of those books where she's one of those authors where I could just pick up her book anytime, any day, and read it and never be bored. She's just fabulous. And it takes a minute for me because I did not grow up reading English language the way she writes. Because when was she, like 1700s, I think? So clearly they spoke and wrote differently than we do now. So yeah, 1775 to 1817. So probably late 1770s, early 1800s is when she was writing this. So it always takes me a minute to get into the language of her as an author. But once I'm in, oh my God, again, like Memoirs of a Geisha, it just transforms me into this whole other place. They're all about romance. So, it's always fun to read a sophisticated romance novel because that's kind of what it is. And I just never get tired of her. She's just an exquisite writer. So that may be for the ladies out there. I don't know how many men would like Pride and Prejudice, or Sense and Sensibility, or Emma, or any of her fabulous books. But
wow, it looks like every few years she came out with just like a banger of a book.
She did.
Every 2 years.
Prolific. And I believe she died of illness young. So who knows what would have happened if she had actually lived, how many more treasures we would have gotten from her. And, the latest movie that came out, Emma, of hers, I thought was just so fun. I loved it. But, I don't like Marvel movies, so I'm an anomaly in today's world.
She died from Addison's disease, which it robs the body of the ability to make critical hormones.
Ooh.
It's rare.
That's horrible.
She was 41.
Yeah, she was really young. I knew she was young. She never married.
God, that's...
Never married. Neither did her sister. There's a movie out called Becoming Jane that I've been wanting to watch. I haven't watched yet. That's supposedly about her life. So I have to check that out. I only have one book left. Last book. This was an unexpected joy, this book. So every year, every summer, for years, I read a classic book to my kids because I didn't want them to grow up feeling like I had, where I had never read any classic novels. So we read like Little Women. I would read aloud to both of them. and we would enjoy this book together. So one year I read Little Women. One year I read The Secret Garden. One year I read, what's that book with Mr. Toad? Mr. Toad's Fantastic Adventure or something like that. And then one year I read this book, and I definitely enjoyed it more than anyone else in my house. It's Treasure Island.
Okay.
So Treasure Island was written by Robert Louis Stevenson. I was eavesdropping on my podcast. Robert Louis Stevenson, I believe, had a stepson who was about 12, and he wrote this book for his stepson. And it is about pirates and treasure and intrigue and betrayal and entrapment. And it's written at the level of a 12-year-old boy, and it freaking rang my bell. I read this book and was like, that was so fun and so easy to read. And I loved every minute of it. And it's not sophisticated, but it's super fun. And you're looking for the mutiny at all times. And you learn all these secret things about pirates' life. And then what's really fascinating is this TV show came out called Black Sails, right?
Yeah.
On Stars. And I was like, let's watch that. Because I think we were watching Game of Thrones and we were looking for something else that was kind of epic, like Game of Thrones. We started watching it and I was like, wait, his name is Billy Bones. Billy Bones is in Treasure Island. Wait, that guy's name is Jolly Roger. There's a Jolly Roger. Hold on. This is Treasure Island, but an adult version. And they add real pirates, like from real life, into the story of Treasure Island. So they've melded like real life Caribbean pirate stories with Treasure Island. And they have characters from the book and characters from real life all in this pirate show that was fucking fantastic. I loved Black Sails. I was so disappointed when they canceled it because I thought this is amazing because I loved Treasure Island, the book, so much. But really cool.
Yeah, I've heard it's really good. My roommate binge watched it and loved it. I saw a fair amount of it when he was watching it. And it looks so awesome. It looks like
it is awesome.
Like an R-rated Pirates of the Caribbean almost. It's
an R-rated Treasure Island.
No, so there you go. Yeah.
If you read Treasure Island and then watch Black Sails, it'll kind of blow your mind. Oh. And I'm pretty impressed that someone clearly read Treasure Island and said, let's make an adult version of that book because it's so amazing. Because it is such a good book. You don't really know how it's going to end. Like, I keep reading the book going, is this pirate going to get the treasure? Or is this pirate going to get the treasure? Who's going to get the treasure? Who's going to die? Who? And there's a black spot. Like if you've wronged a pirate, someone from the pirate society or whatever puts a black spot on your hand, and that means you're a marked person. And so you're going to be dead. And so the black spot would move from person to person. You're like, who's getting the black spot now? Oh my God, he's got the black spot. How's he going to die? It's such a good book. So good. And Black Sails, the TV show, once you read this book, you're like, oh my God. I couldn't believe how they wove the stories together. It was great.
That's really cool.
It was really cool.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I think not many people had that idea. That's why the show got canceled. Bert and I were so disappointed when they canceled that show. We were hardcore into it.
Yeah, I remember when you guys were watching that.
Oh, we loved it so much. And I think it's because when I would read aloud to the girls, I would read aloud to Bert too. So he's listened to Treasure Island too. He listened to me read that. I read that when we were in Clearwater one summer. That's what we did at night, was I would read Treasure Island aloud. So, and that is something I actually really recommend, is reading a book aloud to your family. No one does that. They'll watch TV shows. But it's really cool to go through that kind of labor-intensive group imaginative work, because you all get to imagine what's being read in your own head and what that looks like, and to experience that together. It was really cool to read books.
Yeah, you're right. All the everything that's on the devices today it's so vivid and it's so clear, and there's no room for imagination because it's already all in there. So
That's right.
You're right. Reading a book aloud to people will have them think of their own world.
Yes.
And we're about to move into the norm of being like virtual reality. Like all the movies look like Avatar, and it looked amazing. And yes, it's very creative, but it's you're just an audience member. You're not participating in the creativity of the book just based on the words, because it's already all there. Yeah, I wonder about that with like the new generations that are coming up, what their creativity is going to look like and how it's going to manifest, because it's going to be different. It has to be, right?
It does, because a lot of that work is done for them.
Yeah.
It's done for them. You don't, and kids don't read like they used to, because, when I was a kid, there were 3 channels on the television, 1 television in our house. So if I was at my Aunt Phyllis's, my Uncle Steve was watching a Kung Fu show, I was not going to turn the channel and watch the Brady Bunch. I had to find something else to do. So I would read, or I would, cross stitch or do something else. But kids have a TV in their room. They have the TV in their hand. So they don't have to find something else to do. And in finding something else to do, you get to use different parts of your brain, your imagination, your problem solving skills. How can I get myself unbored? What can I do? And they don't have to do that. It's right here.
It's so interesting. I kind of grew up like that too, because we were in the military, and in the military, they had, especially if you lived overseas, they had something called American Forces Network, and it's 12 channels, and they just play reruns of old TV shows. So I grew up on like old school Brady Bunch and the Andy Griffith Show and I Love Lucy. And
those are great shows.
And so like we weren't really watching TV that much, it seems. I remember watching movies, like VHS tapes, but we never really we played, we created, we played. We were homeschooled for half of our lives.
Right.
I was actually watching something recently about how homeschooled kids are just fine during quarantine, because this is how we grew up without friends, or like we were home a lot.
Right.
We had to stay creative and stay busy at the same time. And and I think that kind of helped give me the tools for this, which is kind of interesting in a way.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
Yeah, I wonder about that. Kids growing up today.
I wonder about that too. That was part of my motivation for reading aloud. And I tried to do it recently, but my older daughter hid the book from me. Which I took as a slap in the face.
What book was it?
The 4 Agreements.
What?
I was like, let's read the 4 Agreements aloud. I think we're all in high school. Let's
hid it.
She hid it.
She hid a self-help book.
I found it. Yeah, she did. I found it 2 days later, and I was like, who hid this from me? And Georgia went, I might have. I said, why? I said, I don't want to read that book. And I'm like, but I feel like everybody needs the information in this book. And she goes, oh. And I was like, I was so hurt.
It's such a short book.
That's what I said. I said that we can read this in 4 nights. Come on.
It's like how I live my life too. Like it's
exactly. And I'm thinking, we're starting high school. This is great information. Hid the fucking book. Hid the book.
Oh my God.
And I said to her the other day, I got the hint, but I did hurt my feelings. And she goes, oh God. And I went, wait, I wanted to read the book. I wanted to read the book. You can read the book to me. So I think I'm going to read the 4 Agreements to Isla. Clearly the smarter of my 2 children.
I am so glad that I read that. I read it when I was 19 was the first time I read it. I watched Nikki Sixx came to my music school to speak about the music industry and creativity and whatnot. And he recommended that book. And he recommended that one and The Artist's Way. And both of those absolutely changed my thinking, and helped with creativity as well. And I'm really glad that I read it at a younger age. And then that brought me into...
That was my theory too.
Because
to read and discuss.
You're able to see those scenarios like not taking things personally. And you just kind of remind yourself as you go through life, as you do start to take things personally, or you see other people miserable because they do take it personally. And you just adjust slowly throughout your life. And I think it's important. And I'm sure the younger the better, but I think that from the ages of like 16 to 18, you're going to get nowhere.
Right.
I don't think kids like their parents when they're that age.
Sucker.
Is that hard for you? Is that hard to just butt heads like that just based on teenagerisms?
I don't know if it's hard, but it is aggravating. Where I go, I remember being this exact thing, right? This is not foreign to me. I was the same way too. I thought my parents were idiots. It's like full-blown idiots. But there is that part of me that goes, if you just listen a little bit, it would save you so much time. But, that's not how people learn. People learn by doing themselves. They don't learn by having someone else do it for them and give them the result. You have to go through it yourself. I was just talking about this with a friend who's having a little marital blip. Nothing serious, but just a moment of not lining up, right? And I was like, recommend some books for him. You've told him what you feel. He said, I didn't realize that. And he's trying to make some adjustments. But the truth is, it's really hard to make those adjustments without some kind of learning. And sometimes the learning doesn't happen from one conversation. It may have to happen from a mentor, from a therapist, from a book, from a podcast. You may have to have some kind of outside source say, hey, take a look at this and see if this applies to you. And if it does, then put it into action. Sometimes it's hard to get that from your mom or your partner in your marriage. It's easier to get it from something neutral, which was why I was trying to read the book. Because then that would not be me saying, don't take things personally. Be a man of your word.
It's still coming from you. I mean, just the sound of my parents' voices when I was that age, at a certain age, you don't hear it. You just have to learn your hard lessons yourself because you don't hear it. It's in there and it comes out later. It comes back later and you go, thank you, Mom and Dad, for teaching me that. I know that was, difficult, but it's not. It's just a wall that is nothing's coming in because I got that wall up and I'm doing my own thing over here.
Yeah. Well, it is an interesting place to be a parent with lots of resources and to not be wanted at all. Like when someone's having a hard day and you try to even comfort them, that's bad. All of it's bad. I think they just want to be so independent and autonomous, and that's completely natural and normal. But it is hard to watch somebody who lives in your house, who's crying because they've had a hard day, and not be compassionate. And you go, well, I can't not be compassionate because if I weren't, that would not be right. But then to be compassionate, be met with, I don't want to talk about it, is not my favorite. You know what I mean? I can't say that's my favorite.
Are you allowed to like hug them in silence?
Oh, no. Okay. No.
Touching, no advice.
I'm allowed to fuck off. That's pretty much the body language and almost the verbal language I get is pretty much fuck off, Mom. I'm going to cry in front of you and you just have to endure it. And any amount of compassion from you is met with evil. So enjoy that too. Because at least I'm talking to you. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, I guess anytime a parent tries to help when you're that age, right?
Yeah. It's a crazy time. I have good kids. There's nothing wrong with they're really good, typical, regular teenagers. This is nothing extraordinary.
You really do have good kids.
Thanks.
My girlfriend babysat when they were young enough to babysit or be babysat. And she would come home and she'd just be like, they're such good kids.
Aww.
They're so smart. They are talkative. You can have legit conversations with them because they are just normal.
Aww.
You know, like I don't know anybody else that age, but besides like my cousins, and if I compare them, they're different. I mean, they're just different. They're not, my cousins when they were that age were not talkative or like interested in really like anything that older people had to say. And your kids just love people. And that's
they do. That's a nice observation. I think they do love people.
Yeah, they're really cool kids, and they're going to grow up to be really awesome adults. But teenager years are.
Thank you for saying that. That's really sweet. I think Bert and I both always tried to, Hollywood's a weird place to raise your kids. It's really weird. I mean, some kids drive to high school in like, not joking, like Ferraris. And you're like, seriously, why does this kid have a Ferrari? I mean, how do you talk to your kids about that? How do you make sure they feel okay about who they are when they're with that? And know that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of life. What matters is how you treat people, is that you are a person of your word, that you do what you say, that you mean what you say, that you're kind and compassionate, that you're giving, and that you take care of yourself, that you're not rude. I've always been super strict about please and thank you and not being rude.
They're not rude.
They are not rude.
You'll catch kids that age being rude on accident or dismissive on accident, and they're not that. Definitely not that.
They're not that. I'm so grateful that stuck, at least. That I was like, there is no circumstance in life that requires you to be rude. You can be stern, but that's not the same as rude. They're very different things. So hopefully I think that kind of stuck. So she's just rude to me. And that's to be expected.
Yeah, totally
that's
normal.
Completely normal.
It'll go away. You guys will be friends.
Yes.
But not right now.
We will. So we had this big camping trip. Her friends were going camping this past weekend, Labor Day weekend, at a place here called June Lake, which was very close to Mammoth, which is where these big fires are burning right now. So we went to June Lake. We got there Friday. And we had a hotel room for Friday night, and then we were camping at a campsite after that. So we drove up there Friday night. It was a 6-hour drive. We checked into a hotel, slept, woke up, checked out of the hotel, drove to the campsite. We did a bunch of activities. I pitched the tent at 1:00 in the afternoon, and then the fire up by Mammoth in the Sierra Nevadas the smoke started moving our way. We could actually see this wall of smoke coming our way. Even though we were no threat to the fire was no threat to us. The smoke was definitely coming our way. So by 6:00, it was almost unbreathable. Like 300 is the highest on the air quality index.
Oh my God.
At 6:30, we were at 289. And I was like, we got to come home. We can't stay here. We can't breathe. I can't sleep in a tent.
Yeah.
So I unpitched the tent at 6:30 at night, put it back in the car. And by 7:30, we were on the road back home. So in 36 hours, I drove for 11 hours and slept for 8. So, and then I got home. We had a great time. We had a great chat in the car ride up and back. We had fun on the trip with her friends. It was a great time. And I was super grateful and glad we went. Even though it was a fast turnaround, we were supposed to stay till Sunday. We ended up coming back Saturday night. We were going to come back late Sunday night. So Sunday I go, so I'd love your help unpacking and, putting everything away. And this was her response. And I thought, motherfucker, I just drove 11 hours in 2 days. I just moved mountains to make this trip happen. And when I ask you to help me put shit back, I get, that's what I get? Oh, Mama was mad. Mama was really mad.
That's a drive. I just looked up where that was, and it's
a drive.
Woo.
Yeah, it's a hard drive.
And it was probably very hot.
It was not. It was 92. Compared to here, here it was like 112, literally. So it was better than here, but pitching an entire campsite and then breaking it down within like a 6-hour window is not fun. And it's dirty. I set the campsite up. I got so dirty because everything's so dusty that I showered, and I had one of those moments where I was way far from the showers. So I walked halfway to the shower, realized I forgot my towel. Walked back to my car, got the towel, walked all the way to the shower, realized I needed 4 quarters for the shower.
What?
All the way back to the car to get my 4 quarters for my 7-minute shower, left my towel at the car again.
Oh, LeeAnn.
I went back, showered, got out of the shower and went, fuck, I forgot my towel. My towel's in the trunk and I'm soaking wet. And I rushed to the shower because I only have 7 minutes because I only had 4 quarters. So I dried off with my wet bathing suit. And then, so I was like, and I went through all of this, pitched the tent, unpitched the tent, and got filthy dirty again after I had taken this 7-minute 4-trip shower. And that's what I get. Gonna help me?
I did not know that they had campsites that took quarters to shower.
Yeah, 4 quarters for a 7-minute shower.
Good to know.
Hot water too.
Good to know.
It was uptown. We were uptown.
Yeah, you were. You were in the middle of the desert, kind of.
We were about 30 minutes from Yosemite.
Okay.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was really great.
I would go over there. We're going to go to Big Bear when my girlfriend gets back.
It's beautiful up there.
I love it. Yeah. We went there, and the first time I just was not feeling good. I was having, I think it was before medication. I was just having bad lows. And I think that's why she took me up there too.
To get you out.
It was just very difficult to be there. And we ended up staying in the cabin pretty much the whole time. It was during Christmas. It was very busy there and cold. And we ended up having a really great time just playing cards, and there's a little TV there. And it ended up being really nice, but I feel bad and I want to do a do-over now that I'm in a better place. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
That would be
socially
nice.
Distant somewhere.
And then you can bring Treasure Island and read it while you're up there.
Maybe we should.
And then come home and watch Black Sails.
Hey, something to do.
Just saying. Well, I'm going to say this in the intro too, but I'm going to say it now also. 2 weeks ago, I think we had Kristen and Jocelyn on about their parenting series. I joined their parenting series. It is phenomenal. It is so good. You sign up for a year. You get 52 weeks of this parenting series. And once a week, you get an email with a 10-minute audio clip. I have listened to 3 weeks now, and they've been so valuable. And I've been able to apply those parenting clips to marriage, to how I treat myself, how I parent myself. It's been really awesome. And then a couple days later, they send you an assignment. And full disclosure, I haven't really been doing the assignments, but bringing that stuff to the front of your awareness, what they're talking about in the little 10-minute clip, has been amazing. And I'm sure if I did the assignment, I'd get even more out of it. But so anybody who's interested in that, you can go to McDermottMethod.com and check out their parenting series. They have a series on divorce. I'm not familiar with that series, but the parenting series is really knocking my socks off. I'm super impressed.
Yeah, McDermott, MacDermott method memoirs.com/WOTP.
Yes. And that gives you a link for my listeners only. And I personally paid for 2 scholarships, and I think they've only given away 1 scholarship. So there may be 1 more scholarship left for this quarter. I'm going to do a scholarship every quarter, 2 scholarships every quarter. So definitely check it out. And if you can't remember their website, you can go to wifeotp.com, and there's a link on my links to great things. I will also put links to all these books on links to great things. So if you want to read them, you can go straight to them on Amazon. I guess that's it, Austen.
I think the only fiction book that changed my life was A Million Little Pieces, because I was younger when that came out, and I read it and I was like, I'm never doing hard drugs. And because it just goes into graphic detail about going to the dentist without Novocaine because he's in rehab or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the only one that I could think of that kind of changed my life in a way. You know, that and Dr. Drew, surprisingly enough, because I was in high school when Celebrity Rehab was on TV, and I could not get enough of that show, and I watched it all the time. I ended up meeting and being friends with one of the people that was in that show.
No way.
You should come on Life of the Party. We should set that up. But I loved that show because, again, it was one of those things where it showed you the bad side of getting into that world and going down those paths and what it leads to, and what a mess Steven Adler was at the time, the drummer for Guns N' Roses.
Broke my heart. I watched that show.
My heart. I met him after he got sober, and holy hell, has he been the nicest guy. Yeah. He's doing fantastic. Been sober for a long time. And really, really cool dude. But yeah, Dr. Drew, kind of putting that out there, as weird as it is kind of now, I think that it kept me away from that stuff. Watching all those drug shows on TV, watching mental illness on TV, whether it be My 600-Pound Life or Hoarders or anything like that, it all is giving you a gauge for unhealthy behavior. And I can't get enough of that stuff. So those are the things that changed my life when I was growing up, I think.
That's awesome. Did you watch Intervention?
Oh, yeah. I love Intervention.
I watched that show too. And then at a certain point, it started making me really heavy.
It's heavy. It's hard.
It's really heavy. But I watched Celebrity Rehab too. I watched every episode. And I admire Drew so much. I really do. And everybody that worked with him and how they handle all their addicts. It's really admirable work. Difficult work, because I don't think it has a very high success rate. No. And that's got to be hard to keep yourself focused and on the path when I'd be like, I give up. I can't do any good. So it's a good person who can keep that path going. I'm glad you told me that. I'm sorry I didn't ask you what books.
Oh, no, I was like, I don't even have any fiction books at all.
A Million Little Pieces was pretty powerful. I have to agree with you. And, you know, it was released at first as a memoir, right? And then it came out that he changed some pretty major details that then changed it from memoir to fiction. But I find that to be really unfortunate, because I think that it's 99% memoir. And I think it's really strong information for someone to have who's battling with addiction, or who's dabbling in drugs, or who's never tried that. It's really a powerful book. I agree with you. Million Little Pieces. I'll put that link in my tab too. It's the first time I read that book, I couldn't put it down. And, you know, Oprah kind of outed him very publicly for changing those few details that in the book. And she publicly shamed him. And that was the last time I watched her show.
Oh.
Because I thought you were a classy person, and I thought you were someone who had integrity, and you just flung mud at that guy instead of trying to understand why he did that. I thought you came from a place of understanding and compassion, and she came from a place of some serious anger. She felt really betrayed.
Ego kicked in there big time.
I don't know if it was ego, but because she really supported him in this book. She was really behind him. And when it came out that it wasn't all exactly accurate, like there was a suicide in the book, and I guess how that person actually committed suicide was different than how he said that person committed suicide. It's a different method, but the person committed suicide nonetheless. And I agree, perhaps maybe it shouldn't have been told as a memoir, maybe mostly true or whatever, but man, she really destroyed him publicly, and I just didn't think that was very well done. I didn't think there was a lot of integrity in that for her. So I stopped watching her show. That was the last time I watched her show.
When was that? Do you remember when that was?
It's been a while.
I'm curious.
It's been a while. Because, I mean, she still had a show. She hasn't had a show for, what, at least 10 years? Long time.
She has her own network that she does shows on.
Yes, but I mean the Oprah Winfrey Show. Are you too young to remember the Oprah Winfrey Show?
No, I remembered it. That's all that was on in my house.
5 days a week. What a monumental job that would have been to produce 5 shows a week. Crazy.
2006.
That's when he was on?
That's when she like lambasted him.
Oh, it was pretty bad. I just thought it was a little beneath her. I mean, I thought what she was saying may be valid, but to publicly shame him in that way instead of, leaving him his dignity in some way, I just didn't think was great. I didn't like it.
He made him a very, very rich and popular man.
She did.
And she backed him.
Yep.
And when she found out that it wasn't true or whatever,
he made a fool of her.
She was like, I will show you.
Yeah.
You don't do that. And she sent a message to everyone else. If you want to be part of my book club, you will not lie to me.
Yeah, it's true. So maybe maybe it was the right thing to do. I just didn't like it. I thought he was pretty brave to sit there and take it.
Yeah, I don't think that was the right thing to do. My favorite interview with her is with Steven Tyler. And that came out about 4 or 5 years ago. She started doing a show where she goes to celebrities' houses and then interviews them, like long-form interviews.
Huh.
Really, really good one with Steven Tyler.
Really? Like Barbara Walters style?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they get into it. They get into it. He talks about infidelity in front of his fiance and like just stuff like that, and drugs and drama and spirituality, and that dude is a very unique human being.
That he is, and what a great artist. He made some good music. Yeah, totally.
My favorite music. I don't know why Aerosmith gets a bad rap. I think maybe because of the 80s stuff. I don't know. But I think that they're the most amazing band. I went to see them live, and I was expecting to be all hyped up and singing along, but I just stood there with my mouth open. And I have seen so many bands. I've been to so many concerts, and that concert stood out to me as being the best band that I've ever seen live.
Wow.
Seriously, those guys, when they all get together, and I'd watch videos all growing up of them live, but seeing it in person was something really, really special. It just felt like magic. And I still haven't felt that to this day from a live band. And that's just 40 years of playing together and at the highest level. And they're all, Steven Tyler's like one of the best singers of all time. Joe Perry's one of the best rock guitarists of all time. And Brad Whitford holding down the drums. He had a heart attack and came back from it. Like, goodness gracious.
Crazy. Yeah, I've always been a big Aerosmith fan. Always. I joined, I don't know if they had this, your whippersnapper that you are, but they used to have music clubs where for a penny, you could join this music club and we'll send you like 10 free CDs And then we send you a couple CDs every month, and you buy the ones you want and send the ones back you don't want. Well, of course, you're an irresponsible college student. You never send back the ones you don't want. So you end up having all these CDs that you don't want. But I joined. So I had the 1 cent, get your 10 CDs, right? And Aerosmith's greatest hits was the one in that first batch. And then I started buying their old CDs, like older albums, after I got that greatest hits, because I got the greatest hits. And I was like, they sang all these songs. They're insane. So then I started buying the albums, like read the whole album. They're amazing. And yeah, I guess they get a better rap for like Dude Looks Like a Lady in that era. Is that what you're talking about?
I think
Dude
so.
Looks Like
Yeah.
80s. But those were their highest grossing songs.
I think like the big, massive rock ballads people don't like for some reason, like Crying and Angel.
That's from the 90s.
The Armageddon one too.
Yeah. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, the big Diane Warren song.
Great song though.
Great song.
I'm a little ashamed. I said Brad Whitford was the drummer. He's the guitar player. Joey Kramer is the drummer.
Got it.
I'm ashamed of myself. I have an Aerosmith tattoo. I'm ashamed of myself. Thank you.
You should be, mister.
That's unacceptable.
Shame.
Unacceptable.
Well, this has been a fun chat. Thank you.
Chatting with you. Excited for the new studio.
Oh, can't wait. I'm excited too. Won't be long.
Yeah.
I hope.
Very excited.
All right. Well, enjoy your night. Tell Brooklyn hello.
I will.
Yeah, tell her hello.
I would say tell your girls hello, but they won't hear you.
No, they won't. They'll say, put it in the book with the 4 agreements. And when we're 18, we'll hear Halston's hello. Right? All right. Till next time.
Bye.